Hi, welcome to Module 1, Lesson 8. Now today's lesson, we're still going to be rounding, but we're going to go more to the traditional rounding. Yesterday we used unit form. Today we're going to be using the decimal form. Okay? Let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you notice, it still says decomposing and rounding decimals. That's because we're doing more of the same. We're just showing another strategy and find out which one works best for you. Okay? Now remember, this lesson here is the start of we're going back to writing them in the spiral notebook. Okay? No filling them out online, and we're going to be doing this in class so we can make sure you understand exactly what's required of you. Okay? Let's go ahead and get started with our lesson. Now, I would like you in your top of your spiral notebook, when you get to the page where you're taking your notes, is you put Module 1, Lesson 8, or from now on, Lesson 9, Lesson 10. We need to know what lesson it is so you can go back and find it. Okay? Now here, it says a standard. This is the standard, was MBT 1.4. Now, this standard's rather short. I'm not going to require you to write the standards. I kind of would like you to. I'll try to paraphrase them or make them shorter. So it'd be kind of nice. This one I would include in your notes because it's nice to know what standard you're working with. Okay? And this is use place value understanding to round decimals to any place number. Now the lesson objective. This is the skill that we're working on this lesson. And it's to round a given decimal to any place value, understanding and the vertical number line. Our essential question, how can I use my place value understanding to round decimals to any place? Now these are kind of the same statements from the last one, but you're going to be using a different strategy. So I would kind of expect a different answer for the essential question. Okay? Now I'm not going to give any notes on this one. You can provide your own notes to the side. But remember, I expect you to use at least 2 of the examples here. And you have to copy 2 of the examples down so you have them in your book. All right, so let's get started. All right, so let's take a look at this one. This one says round 49 and 67 hundredths to the nearest 10. Doesn't say tenths, THS says 10. And we can see we've put it in this place value, we can see that as far as tens go, we have 4 tens. And that means the top of our line would be 5 tens. And our center would be 4 tens, 5 ones. Now this is the way we did it yesterday. Okay? Now, let's see how this looks just with numbers. Well, we know 4 tens equals 40. We know 5 tens equals 50. And we know the midpoint, 4 tens plus 5 ones, would give us 45. Now it says we're rounding to the nearest 10, so I have to look at the ones place, because the ones place is going to determine what 10 we go to. And it says here that we have, let me get my highlighter for a second, we actually have 49 ones. And that's, we know by the midpoint, that's what we're looking at, is the ones. So I'm going to come up here, and I know 49 ones would be right here, somewhere in that general area. So we know it's either if it's on the midpoint or greater, we round up. So this would have rounded to 50. That is the nearest 10. Now on this one, I'm going to do it that way one more time. Now we know we're rounding to the nearest 10. And we can see we have 0 tens here, because our tens would be out here. This would be our tens place. And we know we have 0 tens there. So this would be 0 tens or 1 10. And the center would be 0 tens plus 5 ones. And 0 tens, 0 times 10 would be 0. 0 tens plus 5 ones would equal 5. And 1 10 would equal 10. Now we're looking at the number. And we know we're some good nearest 10, so we're looking at the space to the right of it. which is our 9. So we have 9 here, 9 ones. And 9 ones would be here. So once again, we would round up to 10 on this one. Okay, so this time we're going to round this 3 different ways. We're not going to use any unit form this time. We're just going to use our knowledge of the place value system. So first, let's go ahead and just put our number into the place value chart. And I'm going to get black so we can see it better. And the first one, I'm just going to write it the way it actually is. 43 and 586 thousandths. Now, the first one says that we're going to round this one here to the 10th, to the nearest 10th. So to round this to the nearest 10th, I'm actually going to be dealing with 43 and 5/10. So let's see how that works. So I know that 43 and 5/10 goes on bottom. Now I know coming up, I want one more tenth. So that's going to be 43 and 6/10. Now I know the center, I'm going to have 43 and 5/10, but I also need 5/100ths. Now we're going to come back to our original number. And we can see that we actually have 8/100ths. So I know 43 and 58/100ths is going to be somewhere up in here, 43 and 58. And I'm basing that on the midpoint. So I know it would be roughly right here. So since it's on or above midpoint, we would round this one to the nearest tenth, which is 43 and 6/10. All right, let's see how this changes when we go to the nearest hundredth. Well, I'm going to write this now. We got 43 and 58/100ths. So I know that's my beginning point. So I'm going 43 and 58/100ths. That means my top is going to be one more hundredth. So 43 and 59/100ths. Now the next place over is the thousandths. So on my midpoint, I'm going to go 43 and 58/100ths, but I need 5 thousandths, which will be my midpoint. Now I'm going back to the original number. Now the original number has 6 thousandths. So I know 43 and 586 thousandths is going to be right above my midpoint. And once again, since we're at or above midpoint, we would round up to 43 and 59/100ths. Now our last one says, now this one we're going to round to the nearest 1. Now this could also be called the nearest whole number, because a whole number means it has no decimals, has no fractions. And if you round to the nearest 1, that means whole number. So the nearest whole number we have would be 43. So it'd be 43 on the bottom, 44 on top. In the midpoint, we'd have 43, and we'd look next door, and that'd be 5/10. Now, we look at our actual number, and we see we have 43 and 5/10. So we know 43 and 5/10 is going to be right on the midpoint. So since it's right on the midpoint or above, we would round this one to 44. All right, so this is a second strategy we're learning. First one we did was unit form, and the unit form is to try to help you understand the actual place values you're working with. Now we've stripped out the unit form and we're going straight to the decimal form. Notice you didn't have one time hear me say 4 and above, 4 or less, give it a rest, 5 and above, give it a shove. We're not learning tricks, okay? We're learning, you're using our knowledge of the place value system in order to round numbers, okay? All right, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Actually, I will see you during this lesson. Okay, bye-bye.